Hello, welcome to Coffee Time with Real Women. I am Larissa Slayton, and today's topic is going to be defining success and taming your thoughts to be in alignment with that. Scientists estimate the average human being has 60,000 thoughts a day, but only 2% of those thoughts are actually productive. That means that 98% of our thoughts every day are squandered on things that we may never even think about again, or even be productive, or what we'll even think about tomorrow. So stay tuned as we learn about how to tap into that 98% here as we talk to our special guest, Marsh Engle. Welcome back to Coffee Time with Real Women. I am just so excited to be here today with my special guest and this amazing woman. And she is so amazing. She has her own book called Amazing Woman. Some of you may know her from her publications or also through many of her speaking, either here in the local Los Angeles area, or she is an actual international speaker. She has spoken in a lot of different places. I'll let you.
Montreal, Toronto. I'm sending a shout out to Toronto, my friends in Toronto, moving through an experience there. I want to tell you I've got you in my prayers and thoughts. And Montreal, beautiful community in Montreal, sending you some warm weather because I've heard it's still a little bit cold there.
Yes.
And Maui, Hawaii, which we could all get on a plane and jet over to right now and enjoy some sunshine. So I think, those are my main communities, plus Los Angeles, of course.
Good. So a lot of you will know her from a lot of her events and various publications she's got going on now. Some of the other things that she does, we'll get into a little bit later. Do you want to say something?
Well, I think, what I'm excited about is that Larissa has chosen a topic that is so timely for us because we all battle what you're talking about, and that is thoughts, and that is how many thoughts we have in a minute and how we can get distracted.
Yes. I was just looking up and you looked like you had something you wanted to say, so I always
have something to say.
We always do. We'll get into that a little bit later. I'll let Marsh talk a little bit more about where she is now, according from where she was before. So before we get too far into this conversation, I do want to go ahead and read another little passage here out of Marsh's book. It's from the preface of her book called The Sacred Agreements. So in concept, the agreements itself can be thought of as various things. However, what I'm talking about here, it will refer to the agreements, which is it just in this book, or is it for the agreements of self?
Well, I think when you get into the definition of what a sacred agreement is, it would be the agreement that we choose to honor within ourselves. So our sacred agreements tend to be ones that we are either currently committing to make a shift or to create a new ideal or a new self-image, or they could be agreements that we often already know, but that we're simply choosing to remind ourselves of. Okay. So a sacred agreement is really defined as one that will bring us to a mindful awareness of who we are and who we're becoming.
Good. All right, so just a little passage here from her book. To make the shift, a new set of agreements is required. A fresh perspective, a dynamic unleashing of the presence of our power to create with the confident knowledge we are called to lead. Each of the agreements is designed to illuminate the complex relationship between what we think and how we present ourselves. Along the way, shifts will take place, the sense of isolation will dissolve, and self-doubt will disappear. Undervalued strengths will be uncovered and the greater self-worth revealed. Even more, you will liberate your self-value, manifesting in actions to bring your boldest self to your biggest and best ideas. The fact is, right now, there is a creative power speaking through you. It speaks through your enthusiasm, your talents, and your creativity you bring to life and to the lives of the people that you love. You are a full circle of pure potential. When you set it free, you hold the power to change the world.
Yes,
That
true.
is such a powerful passage.
Yes, thank you.
So just elaborating on that and knowing how powerful just that one passage is. This lady sitting right next to me, Marsh Engle, is just as powerful herself. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, a multi-published author. You're a producer, international speaker. You're CEO of your own media company, Marsh Engle Media. She's also the mastermind behind dozens of successful brands. So there's so much. The list can just go on and on and on. Is there something else that you would like to?
You know what I would add is I am a woman who is discovering more of who she is every single moment. So sometimes, we get up, and thank you for the introduction, but sometimes I believe we get so caught up in the attributes of our doing that we miss the most important thing, and that is that I think I have a hunger and a curiosity for knowing more about who I am and how I can be more of that, bring more of that to life. And peeling back any of the veils or peeling back any of the curtains that say that I'm less than what I truly am.
Absolutely.
And that is a discovery. A lot of my clients are saying, like, oh, good, now I've got that now. I've reached it. And I'm like, yeah, and guess what? You're going to get it again tomorrow, and you'll get it more the next day and the more. So I believe that self-discovery and stepping into our power and defining who we truly are as amazing women is not just a one-time thing. I believe it is every single day. And that's what makes it a great adventure, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Absolutely. And, with all of this, and you have so much, you've accomplished so much, and you have so much to talk about that I can't think of any other better person right now to talk about this topic of trying to tap into that 90% of our brain and really come into alignment with ourselves. So just kind of going back to that topic of the 60,000 thoughts a day, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you think about that?
Yeah, I think that the most powerful aspect that we can tune into is mindfulness. And there's lots of different practices. Of course, we hear how meditation brings us mindful, affirmative thoughts can bring us mindful, all of this different, but being very, very clear on what we're thinking and the power of what we're thinking, being very conscious and noticing and observing our thoughts. Because the fact is that our thoughts are taking up a lot of creative energy. And if they're spinning out of control,
Absolutely.
and we're spinning it out of control in a direction that we no longer wish to go, which would be worry, self-doubt, concerns about ourselves, concerns about our future, concerns about the people around us,
Which is sabotages that 90% of our
we can get spin out of control to where all of the energy that's going into our thoughts, it becomes very unproductive.
Mhm.
And I think that we as women especially are such powerhouse creators. And when we start to think about what is our creative energy and where is that creative force coming from, much of it is invested in our thoughts and our ideas, our insights, our feelings. So the more that we get into understanding what our feelings are saying to us, how our thoughts are directing us, how can we essentially bring all of that energy, that ball of creative energy that we are, and begin to direct it in the direction that will be the most rewarding, the most eventful, the most meaningful, the most fulfilling, the most insightful, the most transformative, the biggest contribution that we can make, because there's not one single one of us, and Larissa, I know you know this, and all of you right now know this, is that you came here equipped with something great to provide, something great to bring to the world. And if our thoughts take us out of that realm of what we could be creating, then we're depleting ourselves, right? And I don't know about you, but I want to stop it. I want to stop the depletion, and I want to go in the direction of a refined and very powerful
Absolutely.
self-image.
Absolutely, and I'm really glad you brought that up too, because it's sort of what coffee time is about here. We're about letting our own self-power display and really bringing our true selves forth. And it's not just about, I see this person over here, and I do that a lot. We like to compare ourselves, and we compare success, and we compare ourselves to what somebody else is doing, or the trends of what's going on in today's society. And we forget the fact that every one of us has something valid to bring to the table, no matter what it is. It may not mean something to the mass public, but it might mean something to your neighbor, and that's where it starts.
Or to our own evolution, to our own
Correct.
transformational journey. And I think that when we start to think about what you mentioned, which is really valuable, the comparison, or thinking somebody else is ahead of where we also should be, or everybody has their own journey. And I've coached hundreds and hundreds of women, entrepreneurs and creators, inventors, innovators, transformational teachers, leaders, all kinds of women. And I'm going to tell you, of all the women that I've interviewed, which I spoke about in the Sacred Agreements, everyone, every single one of us, we're on our own journey. And we are not going to look like our sister, our mother. We're not going to look like our friend on Facebook that we're admiring the launch of something she's doing.
Right.
We're not going to look like anyone else we know. We can be inspired by those people. We could be motivated by those people. We can have creative ideas. We can mastermind and share. But when it comes to who you are, it's what, I've tried to do, and my coaching is very unique, and because I've tried to do big group programs where, we get into a group and we use a model to identify who we are and what we have to say. And I'm going to tell you, it is very challenging, because when it comes to identifying who you are and what you have to say and the meaning you're bringing to your life, it is a very intimate experience.
Absolutely.
We have to sit with ourselves. And we have to, right now I was working with a client a couple days ago, and she's creating her speaker outline, her speaker one sheet, which will eventually be the website, but also on a one sheet that she has. And I said to her, she sent it to me to review, and I wrote it back, and I said, think hard. Think really hard. Because some of the things that you've accomplished and some of the things that you've done and some of the things you've been involved in, you've completely forgotten about.
Wow.
So it's like being mindful about how much we're accomplishing and the ways that we're accomplishing it that are unique and innovative in our own life, in our own self.
Wow. You got to think about that. I have to get off on defining, having you. You are such an amazing person to look up to, and you mentor so many women, and she does consulting work, she does so much, and you look at her and you think, wow, this woman is successful. But you know what? Personal success really is defined by our own means. It's not defined by someone we compare ourselves to, or somebody else who has achieved different things in their own paths to their own journey. So Marsh, how would you personally define success?
Success is such a rich word. I'm going to take us way back to when I first defined success. And I was taught to define success and came to believe that success was all about the external. Mm-hmm. I believed that it was all about having the right cars, the right house, the right amount of money in my bank account. All of that I was so over-identified. It's almost a bit uncomfortable for me to say it, but the truth is, it's the truth. I was taught very well to think that if you got this award, it really meant you were successful. If you got this, somebody identified you as that kind of leader, it really meant that you were successful. Or if you, your rate of payments, how much money that you made each year, or how much money you made even as a coach consultant, all of that meant, oh, now I'm really successful, I'm really there. And I'm going to tell you, none of that matters. Wow. None of it matters. All that matters is how are you defining the relationship that you have with your most important person in your life, and that is you. And that is you. That is you. That's why I love the idea of being curious and discovering, because I am definitely not there to when it comes to understanding the wealth of creativity that we can tap into. Every day I wake up and say, let me find out more. Wow. Let me see more of what I can speak about. Let me see more of what I can learn. So to me, success would be the willingness to walk that path, to get that I'm not there, to get that I'm willing to discover and know more, to get that really what success is about is finding the wisdom that's within us, finding how we've been equipped uniquely within our own life experiences, finding how we've been equipped and turn it into something that someone somewhere can benefit from. So it's almost like the minute that you learn more about yourself, and
Absolutely.
I get so inspired by this, because the more I understand and the more awareness I have, and then the more willingness I have to honor that awareness, with meaning that it's given a gift to me that I can now give to Larissa, or it's given a gift to me that I can now share with each of you. And how do I begin to honor that within myself and keep discovering and have something new to share all the time? To me, that's success. And I don't know, I've defined success a million different ways, and I think that's probably the closest I've ever gotten to the truth for me.
Absolutely. You kind of touched a little bit on a question I had for you later, but I really find it very important to understand how we ourselves define on a personal level, not on a Facebook or a trend level or even a business level or anything. It's on a personal level. I think that is the foundation to really becoming who you are and becoming in alignment with your thoughts. You have to know where you start in order to know where you're going. So to take a moment to just sit down and find out what you really, on a personal level, what is actually going to make you happy.
Yeah, and
where are you going in your life?
Like, what are your values? Would be the first, if we broke it down and we said, okay, knowing yourself, that's my definition of success, but it would be knowing my values.
Right.
Knowing what I'm really willing to stand for. And this is a big question. We think that sounds simple until you get into defining it. It's like, what am I really willing to stand for? What am I willing to use my voice to stand for? What am I willing to be recognized for standing for? Meaning, out in the world, people say, wow, that's what she stands for. She really stands for that. That's who she is. And knowing our values, knowing what we stand for, and then allowing ourselves to tap into that inner authority, that part of ourselves that will believe in our values and believe in what we stand for to the level that we will take it out and share it in the world. Really important for us when it comes to defining how do we get there. And, of course, we're going to look at goals. We wouldn't have a podcast happening, or we wouldn't have a video series happening without having goals. But there was work that was done before we got to that. It's like, what do we really want to create?
Exactly.
And what would
where did you get started in order to have that goal? We have to have that basic foundation block. And I really think it's important to sit down with yourself and take your own personal inventory in order to decide what you really want in your life and where you're going. I know, I have to say, personally, I worked with Marsh on this level, and that's probably, I might get emotional when I talk about this. That's one of the best things that you did for me, is you made me sit down and recognize myself. And before I got started with it.
Yeah, I love when you said it, you made me sit down. Because what you say to me...
Because you just kept bringing it back to know, what was your thoughts? I get all this up here, and I get what you said, but what do you think? How do you get here? And I went, that really brought it home for me.
What do you really want to create? What do you really wish to say? But I love the way you said you made me sit down, because most of us, almost all of us, have invested in an identity that somebody has told us that we are, and then we begin to create based on that.
That you see.
Yes.
We as women are just bombarded by so much. You open your computer every day, you turn your TV on, even just driving down the street, you're bombarded with advertisements of something. You turn on Facebook and your best friend's got this going on, and that person over there will have a better podcast or a better video. I don't want to compare myself to that.
No.
I don't want to compare myself to anything. We are about being true to who we are, and that is where we're going to find not only our true success, but our true happiness amongst...
When I first stepped out on my journey, and I know a lot of what you're going to be asking me about is the journey, so I may be jumping ahead here, but when I first stepped out on my journey, I was running a very large marketing agency, and I had built it very intellectually. I built it based on the need to make money. That was a valid reason, and it was a noble reason, because I also had two very young sons. So I was building my business to make money to provide for my sons. So I was in a provider role.
Right.
Sometimes that
Which
provider
most of us
role
women can be in.
it's like, it can feel like pushing for outcome. It can feel like trying to make things happen. It can feel like a relentless striving. It can feel like that word hustle. I love it when I see hustle marked out in alignment underneath it.
Absolutely.
But it could be that. And when I started, so when I came to the place where I was gifted the opportunity to walk away from that way of being, that thought pattern, was when I got the diagnosis of lymphoma.
Oh, wow.
My mom died suddenly, completely unexpected, and my dad died right after that. I had this 18 months of this awakening, this like just stop and feel. Just stop and feel. So all of my creation up until then had been on that push to make it happen. There was no stopping to feel. It was, what do I got to do next?
Well, unfortunately, that's almost the mindset of now. Just keep driving, keep doing this, keep going, keep, You know, and I was one of those too. I thought, you know, I was in a similar situation raising 2 young kids by myself, and it was just sleep was for weak people. Sleep was, you know, was a waste of time. Just drive, keep going, and I just ran myself into the ground. And all of a sudden, I thought I was driving myself to something that I was intended for, and I wake up and I go, wait a second, who am I? I'm exhausted, and I don't want any of this.
You can't do it anymore. In a minute, you're like, this isn't what I think I signed up for.
Exactly.
So I always laugh and say, when I was not allowing my feeling body to inform my actions or my creativity, I mean, think about it. Our feeling body is our creativity.
Yes.
So all I'm doing is working from this mental state, right, of manifesting and creating, but I'm doing it from a lot of pressing for outcome and striving. And so when I got this diagnosis, I somehow, by the grace of God, got the insight to only live from my intuitive senses, only live from my feeling body. And it was such a contrast to what I had been doing. I mean, it was a major contrast. It's like I got really good at asking the question, let me see how I feel about this. Let me see, not let me see how I think about this, but let me see how I really feel about this. And sometimes the answer would not come right away. So I had to sit with it for a while and really say, what do I feel about this? And sometimes the feeling would be on a surface level, and I'd think, okay, that's it. And no, there's more. And you'd go deeper, right? Until I got really acquainted with the power of manifesting through our sense of feeling.
Yes.
Some people call that intuitive guidance. Some people call that source connection. Some people call it all kinds of things. But what I knew is that I was onto something. And I'm going to tell you, when I shifted from the sense of making these decisions, these rapid fire decisions that I'd been known for, to being in this feeling body, and let me tune in and see how I feel about this. I mean, you talk about people laughing and making fun of me. I was like, what is up with that? What is up with her? And I would say, you know what? I got to tell you the truth. I'm either absolutely crazy out of my mind or I'm onto something really big.
Absolutely.
And what I know is that I was creating based on only one aspect of myself. I was only creating on my mental body. You know, I was creating from that point of view, what had been proven, what had been known. And when I began to merge it with the creativity and the flow that came from my intuitive senses, I became so much more powerful at creating. So then that's when I talk about aligning that, those ideas with our willingness to hand it off to our inner authority and say, yeah, are you voting in on this? Because I think it's a good idea. And the inner authority says, yeah, let's do it. And let's
the outer authority is going to tell you anything and everything. It depends on who you're in front of and what you're watching at the time. So trying to align yourself with exterior motive is going to do nothing but run you into the ground. So really being true to yourself is...
It's not easy. I don't think this is easy. I don't think this is easy.
It's not an easy...
I have been investigating, studying, and learning about this for 25 years now. It's been 25 years. And I'm going to tell you, every day I learn more about how I am blocking an aspect of a higher wisdom or a higher truth or just a higher creativity that's coming through me. And I am just... I'll take a seat and let me just go with what I think I know, or let me go with what is already proven, or let me go with what's safe. When Spirit's like, no, when I moved to Maui, it was from Spirit. It was like literally I heard, pack up and move to Maui. And for some reason I trusted it, and I did, and I went there for 3 years. So I think that sometimes we make our boldest choices. Oftentimes we make our boldest choices that lead us to the most beautiful, empowered outcomes when we're willing to listen deep. I'm not going to say sometimes. I'm going to say every time.
A lot of, most of the time.
I'm going to say every time. and
there's a time and a place
handing it to our logic, handing it to our mental body and saying, well, let's see how this fits all together. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And I think that getting back to your question about success, is this really, for me, that's what success is about.
It's a major building block. I think the foundation. So. I know in an event I saw you at here recently, you had mentioned the fact that this wasn't always, you didn't always see yourself in this position. And I know we just touched a little bit.
This is so big. This is so big.
But, this is not just a natural way of thinking for people. It doesn't just trying to figure out, oh, I can be this or I can be that, or
you have to kind of psychic. There's a lot of different, I could give you a lot of different avenues. Let me give you my journey. That would be it. So when I was an entertainment executive and I led a large marketing agency, and I had incredible, great experience building programs, we're all very happy now because now we all get together and we build programs, movements. We build movements, we build programs, we build curriculum, we build broadcasts, we build a lot of things. That comes from that early experience. But whenever I was at that period where I knew that, my mom had died, and this would be inappropriate to talk about here, I think. When my mom died, and I was sitting in her room, and I was just beyond devastated that my mom had passed. And my mom and my grandmother spiritually came in and spoke to me. And they said, Marsh, this is your time. This is your time, a search for the amazing woman.
Oh.
And I thought, what is an amazing woman? What is an amazing woman?
What is that even supposed to be?
Right, I had no idea. And the next insight was, find out. So what I did was I went out and I started interviewing everyone I could talk to. I would talk to people on elevators. I would talk to people, cashiers. I would talk to television personalities and celebs. I would talk to other authors. I would talk to well-known. I would talk to people just starting out. I would talk to anybody about what is it to be an amazing woman.
Oh.
Because I wanted to know. I sincerely did not know.
Inquiring minds wanted to know.
And I really wanted to know, not just from what would be my perspective, but what would be your perspective or her perspective, or, went into the firehouses of New York City and worked with the women there, the pioneering women of New York's firehouses of New York. And I wanted to know what is an amazing woman, and I wanted to know for me. But through it, I began to see that there was a self-image issue.
Absolutely.
When I sat with someone and I said, I'm going to talk to you today about you being an amazing woman, the very first thing they would want to do is to deny that they were an amazing woman.
Wow.
The very first thing they would want to do, or if they knew that they were amazing or had accomplished something amazing, they would want to apologize for being amazing. And I realized we have a problem here. We as women have a major problem with our own self-image,
Yes.
with the way we have defined ourselves. And it's not just how has Marsh defined herself or how has Larissa defined herself, but it is in our DNA. It's thread throughout our feminine psyche
Right.
that we want to apologize. And it sends us into, we're thinking about our thoughts. Today we're talking about our thoughts. We're thinking about them and talking about them. But it's thread throughout our thoughts, and it just naturally takes us there. So when I would sit with someone, I call them transformational interviews, and I'm going to tell you why. I sat with someone, and I was talking to her, and maybe for the first time, identifying her as an amazing woman. A woman that I wish to learn from. A woman that I know has some insight. And there, like when I went to Jamaica, the amazing women of Jamaica, they hardly could speak for the first 5 minutes because they were so moved by someone recognizing them in their brilliance, which they're brilliant, amazing women. They're brilliant, amazing women that are leaders of industry and creators and innovators, builders of community and culture.
Absolutely.
And these beautiful women, but they had such a challenge with being recognized and honored. And I knew that and this was not even that many years ago. I still work with women in our self-image. So how is it? I think the question was, how did I break through the walls? I don't know that I have completely. What I know is that I've immersed myself in the vulnerability and the willingness to look deep, to say, what more is there about me to discover?
So it's safe to say you're constantly redefining
Yes.
this definition for yourself.
Yes, I call it putting on a new outfit. Just I've taken off the old outfit that no longer fits or is inappropriate, for maybe it's not the color I like anymore, whatever that outfit is, that identity, that image,
That's a great
and
concept.
allowing underneath it to shine through a more pristine focus of image. And that's probably not even 100% true either. The next day there may be more of a self-image. The next day, sometimes we get to, I'm thinking about myself. I was in a car accident. We know, some of us know. I've talked this much about it, but I was in a car accident and it made me pause. It's like this sacred pause, I want to call it. It made me pause. When I got the diagnosis of lymphoma, it made me pause. When I got the divorce from my husband, it made me pause. When I paused, what happened was I was no longer in overdrive about who I thought I was supposed to be and working from that perspective of, oh, I got it going on, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, I know. No, I paused and said, hold on. There's something new wanting to come through here. There's higher insight. There's more self-awareness. There's more self-honor. There's more a willingness to show up. Not that I was, well, I would say denying. What part of me was I denying, you know?
Absolutely.
And when I say show up, it's like, how have I been denying some of the most beautiful parts of myself?
Absolutely. And that's where some of that is the parts we're almost scared of. We're afraid to let go. We're afraid to let go of our own creativities, our own. It's easier to become what other people want us to be because we don't have to take ownership of that. So it doesn't say that's not who, you know.
Or look in a magazine and say, okay, I can kind of act like that, or I can kind of. I went to this movie last night. Oh, I don't know the name of it.
You
know, it's about her. She psychs herself into believing she's beautiful. It's out right now. It doesn't matter. But she psychs herself into believing she's beautiful. And I sat there and I watched like every second of everything she was saying, and I thought, it really might be that simple about being willing to lean in the direction, not of what somebody's told you, or worse yet, what we've told ourselves. That to me, that's the biggest battery.
Not being afraid of your true colors.
Yeah. And if we are afraid of our power, if that's what we want to say, if we are afraid of it, make that playful as well. Like, make it where, whoa, I must be getting something close to something really great because it scares the bejeebies out of me.
Right.
You know, I did not speak on stage.
I
what I'm
believe
talking
it,
about,
yes.
right? So I did not speak on stages. People think, you know, we do an interview or, you know, they hear me speak on stage and they're like, oh, you must have always wanted to speak on stage. Are you kidding? No. I had no voice. When they'd send the mic around the room, you know, in these circles we do, and they'd send the mic around the room, and everybody would be sharing this beautiful insights and wisdom, and they'd get to Marsh, what do you have to say? And I'm like, I just pass it on. I had nothing.
Well, you know me,
My
I'm great at
little-
doing that.
My little voice was like a little squeak. Until one day I just said, I feel like this is my path. I feel as though there's something that's wanting to be spoken through me. I gotta honor that. I have to value that. And even if it's, so I started speaking like a one person, 10 people, and before I knew it, I was in front of 1,000 people. Before I knew it, I was broadcasting. And, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna let you know a secret. Every time, you know, this car accident gave me a big pause. Every time I go through a peel back, a pausing and finding a new sense of self, I get nervous all over again.
Oh, wow.
I get nervous. It's like,
That's when you know
What
you're
do I
touching
have
on
to
something.
say?
But that's
Yeah.
when you know you're getting out of your comfort zone. It's stepping out of that comfort zone and peeling back some of those layers or scraping off whatever the environment
putting a new
has
outfit out.
put on us.
Yes, it's just putting, you know, being willing to put the new outfit out there and know that you're just playing with that too. You know, you're never really your self-image. You're always so much more than the self-image. I just know we are. I just know we are. And so it's, why not be playful with it? Why not be playful and not take it so serious? Not take it so personally? And why don't we just go out
I think
and
not
say,
taking things personally is a big thing.
Yes, it is.
I have to say, I'm glad you said that because I think that's a very, very big thing, especially amongst us women. We have a tendency to internalize a lot of the things that take place around us and take it personal, and it's not. The majority of what's going on around you is
about them.
about them. It's not about us.
And it's not to say that we're not caring and compassionate for what they're experiencing, you know, because we're all experiencing
Big
something.
difference. Yes.
But it's to be compassionate with someone and let them be who they are in their experience. And by the way, I'm not telling you I'm there yet. This is not me saying I'm there with this.
I don't
but
think
I can
anybody,
talk it. You know, I
yes.
can talk it. I can talk the inside. But I'm still learning to integrate all of that. Because I am sensitive, and when someone does say harsh things about me or to me, it does not feel good. It does feel like I've let somebody down or that I've not lived up to my potential. But then when I can get out of my head about it, and I can really tune in and get into the truth, it's that, you know what, you got to keep going, Marsh. You got to keep going. Not everybody's going to love what you're talking about. Not everybody's going to enjoy being around you. Not everyone's going to identify with, with your definitions of certain, of leadership, or my definitions of. I remember back when I first started, this Amazing Woman journey, and I decided to do this idea, this insight came to me to create Amazing Woman's Day, and that was a big thing, to create Amazing Woman's Day. That was a big idea for me. That was a big idea, so much so that Spirit would say to me constantly, this is a much bigger idea than what you can manage.
Wow.
This is a bigger idea, let it go. This is bigger, like let go of the control of what that idea wants to be.
Yeah.
But my point was
That's a
going to
big
be
one.
and so it was like, whoa, especially, given my background as a producer with always hands on the control. But I got, along with Amazing Woman's Day, I got the insight that we would be bringing forth a new image, a new definition of leadership. And I thought, what is that? And it would be feminine leadership. Okay, this is back in 1999. This is a long time ago. And this was like such a foreign thought. And people wanted me to call it women's leadership. They wanted me to call it female leadership. They wanted me to call it, and I said, no, it's feminine leadership. And they're like, what does that mean? And I said, I don't know. But I can tell you that we're going to be bringing forth, whatever the Amazing Woman's Day movement is going to be bringing forth, we're going to be bringing forth a new definition of leadership that will be value-centered, that will be self-honoring, that will be highly creative, that will be collaborative. Are we able to do this today in 1999? Probably not. It was a lot of heavy lifting in between 99 till today. But now we've got we want this. This is what we long for.
More accepted.
Yes, it's we're still not 100% there, but we're much more likely to be able to talk about what feminine leadership is. But to imagine that in 1999 it gifted down to me this insight of what is it that we could create that would be new for women as we join together in celebration of ourselves and one another.
Wow. That's amazing. So, I would say some of the things that we've kind of touched on today as part of our ability to get rid of some of those self-thoughts. You hear a lot out there about, think positive, think this, and you hear people think this being overly positive or being on a constant level of positivity. We are human. We have to accept the fact that we're human. So just telling people, well, you always just got to think positive, always be there, always drive yourself, really isn't a practical approach. I mean, it's great to think that we're great positive people, but really trying to deny yourself a feeling is where that gets into.
Why what your topic that you picked today of being mindful and being aware of our thoughts is so perfect for what you just said. Because it's not about being hyper positive.
Well, we think, especially I've heard even the lady at the event the other night, she said, I'm a positive person, I shouldn't be feeling that way. And I can't. The truth is we have feelings. We are feeling creatures, especially as women. We need to accept the fact
what I believe is
that embracing who we are and bringing our thoughts back to center sometimes is part of the experience. Not only do we need to define what it is for ourselves personally, for success and for our own true happiness, but we can pause. We can take that, as you described, the sacred pause, to really discover who we are and think about what we want and really allow ourselves to feel.
So important, and to not over-identify by the thought as it comes in. I mean, mindfulness is really about being very present to a thought as it's moving through. But if we grab on, and we're so good at it, aren't we? We're so good at there's a negative thought, let me grab onto that. And let me just identify with that, let me over-identify. And then these beautiful thoughts that go by, we're like,
we're so wrapped up in the
So
in
what
the
it's about, I
sabotage
think the real art, the real power is in knowing that we're always going to have a flow of emotion. We're always going to have a flow of thoughts. You've already said we have whatever gazillion thoughts a day. If we know that we're having the thoughts, but we are not those thoughts, we can let those thoughts move through us and not grab it out and over-identify by it, then we can stay very present. And when we stay very present, we're this powerful, energetic being that can download and get those good ideas coming through, or get that insight, or attract to us those opportunities.
Well, sometimes those negative thoughts are trying to tell us something. It's not just about, oh, I can't think this, otherwise I'm going to be a negative person, and I'm not a negative person. But when you allow yourself to experience some of these things, that's kind of where you find out who you are. Maybe that emotion is telling you, you know what, maybe you should change gears.
Yes.
Maybe this isn't for you. Are you exhausted every day? Are you this? It's trying to tell you something.
I love it. You know what you're reminding me, what you're saying is of when the first book, Amazing Woman, Amazing World, first came out. I'll show everyone so we know what I'm talking about. This little tiny book that put me on stages and really launched the movement of Amazing Woman, this tiny little book. When the book came out and the interviews happened and Amazing Woman's Day was happening in cities, I do all these interviews, and they would ask me in the interviews, invariably, what is what is it, a powerful, amazing woman, and who is she? What's it take to qualify? And I said, first of all, we're all amazing.
Right.
I'm not talking about a certain genre of accomplishment in order to be amazing. I'm saying we're all amazing. And then the second thing is that they would ask, what is it that the common thread among all the amazing women that you've met? And I said, they're willing to be absolutely honest with what they're feeling. Wow. So if you're feeling fear, or if I'm feeling rejected, or if somebody's feeling any of those lower vibration, those lower energies, whatever we're feeling, I found that by identifying the energy, identifying what it was I was feeling, not becoming it, not sitting in it, not saying that's who I am, but knowing that that's what was there, allowed me to love it up. I was able to then accept it, or love it, or learn from it. Yes, acknowledge it. And through that, a wave of awakening, we could call it, this wave of expansion would happen, but not by stuffing away. Lord knows I had stuffed away for way too long,
We all have.
And sometimes I'm like boggled, mind boggled by some of the thought or the feeling, the emotion that will come up. I'm like, can you believe that I've been swimming in that and didn't even know it? So it led me to this awareness, but I didn't get the awareness by stuffing it away. I got the awareness by sitting with the energy of it. And the women that I interviewed for the book, and I would ask them, all of the research that I've done for Sacred Agreements, for Amazing Woman, all of it was about, what was the most pivotal moment that you ever experienced in your life? And then with that pivotal moment, what did you learn from it? And we can't answer that question unless we're honest with ourselves.
You know what? Before we move past that, I want to address that to all the listeners or the viewers out there, because how many of you can actually define your most pivotal moment of your life?
Or one of them. Yes, one of them. Because sometimes there's, if
you're lucky, you can define quite a few.
Yes. You can be like, well, this morning I got a phone call that changed my world, or this afternoon, or it could be, a diagnosis, a health diagnosis, or the passing of somebody. It could also be a major, and I want us to all, we're looking at pivotal moments. What was the most powerful decision you made? What was the most powerful decision, or what was the most powerful shift that you made in your own self-image? Like for me, as I'm thinking about it, it's like the day I decided I had something to say. I went from not being able to speak to saying I have something to say.
I can relate.
And it's like, let me find the place, even if it's me looking in the mirror and speaking to myself, I have something to say.
Well, that's where most of it begins.
Yeah. So that pivotal moment could be any kind of experience that creates a shift. It creates a shift in what we're willing to settle for, and how we're willing to identify ourselves, how we're willing to step up in a new way. It also does not mean the pivotal moment and the wisdom that comes from it does not mean that it's forevermore, because that same wisdom could also lead to the next pivotal moment. That might be a little confusing what I said, but it's like the fact is that pivotal moments are happening, I believe, all the time. And
they truly are.
Yeah, we're given an opportunity to look at things differently.
And that's which allows us to redefine. It allows us to keep moving forward and keep growing and keep being amazing women.
Even more amazing each moment.
Marsh, I'm so happy that you were able to share some of your wisdom with us today. You have accomplished so much and you have so much to offer. I'm so happy that she was able to be here with us today. I know you're so busy, and just taking some of that time to be here is just really special for me to know that you did that.
It's a joy.
And before we wrap up anything more, I do want to give you an opportunity to discuss a little bit of your books. We've touched on them briefly. Is there anything you would like to talk about that you have coming up, or any shows, or
Yeah,
anything more about the
super-
books? I know
super
you
fired
could go on for days.
I am super fired up. I just want to talk about one thing, and that is go to amazingwomannation.com. Amazingwomannation.com. It is my new program for us that brings us together in community, and we're doing one very specific thing. We're creating brands, we're creating programs, we're creating products, we're creating new businesses and launching careers that will make a meaningful difference in the world.
Wow.
So amazingwomannation.com, it's the advancement or the evolution of Amazing Women's Day, bringing us current. And I see us being, I get very fired up because I see us being a nation of amazing
Absolutely.
women, filled with the Larissas, filled with, so many amazing women in their communities that they've been creating, and so many amazing products and programs that teachers and well-being experts and coaches and ministers are out in the world providing. And that's what Amazing Woman Nation is all about. So you can go to amazingwomannation.com, opt in there, and lots of new things going to be coming from that. So you'll want to be part of it. I'm certain. I hope so.
I'm sure. Now, just to wrap this up, I want to do one more quote from your
Okay.
Sacred Agreements book. I'm convinced the greatest desire within every woman is to be liberated from the influences of self-doubt or patterns of fear. I believe she longs to set free her true creative potential and innate power stemming from the deepest parts of herself, the attractive force aligned with the callings of her soul. And that quote was directly from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I loved every moment. I loved every moment being with all of the listeners and the viewers too. I can't wait to see it broadcast and see what else is coming up for you.
Yes. And speaking of that, for all the viewers or the listeners out there, of course, this session was a little bit different. This is the podcast and video at the same time. Anybody that wants to learn more about any future podcasts or anything, we're going to be constantly updating. We're really launching Coffee Time with Real Women at this point in time. Marsh is one of our first amazing women to be on these shows. So please keep up with us, follow us, like us, subscribe, all that fun stuff, whatever you want to put out there, whichever. We're pretty much on all of the social media channels. Coffee Time with Real Women. Please go to coffeetimewithrealwomen.com. You can find out not only about us, but more about Marsh. She is our featured guest on there right now. So, again, so happy you're here. Happy all of you were able to tune in with us today, and so excited to get this out and going for you too, Marsh. Thank you for joining us. And as always, until next time, keep it real and keep it powerful. Thank you.